This is going to be a complete guide to trim sheets. Now, trim sheets are incredibly powerful not only for video games, but simply for detailing in general. What you can do is you can make an extremely simple object. And when I say extremely simple, I mean like this simple, just a rectangle. And you can make the model look very, very complex and detailed without modeling in a single thing. Basically, what you do is you make a block out of something. In this case, I made a block out of a wall. You add a trim sheet material, which we'll be showing you how to make in this video. We're going to be designing the trim sheet from scratch. You add that trim sheet material, you go into material mode, and then what you can do is you can unwrap individual faces of your simple model here, and what you can do is place these UVs over the area where you want detail. So for example, if I want to have some pipe detail, I position the UV over the pipe here. If I want to have some little detail here on the top, I just press U and then unwrap. Let me make sure I assign the material to it. And we can just rotate this and perhaps we can get like a little strip of detail up on the top. And then maybe for the bottom, I can go ahead and unwrap this one as well and put some little panels here on the bottom. I could just scale this down, move this down, and just like that, from a very simple piece like this, we now have a detailed model. And these are incredibly powerful because in video games, you can reuse these over and over and over, and it also keeps the poly count extremely low because we don't have to model in all of these details. They're simply a texture. And if you're just doing stuff inside a Blender and you're not too worried about poly count, it can help increase the efficiency of your workflow because you don't have to spend hours modeling in detail. You create one trim sheet and then you can reuse that forever. So this video is going to show you how to make your own trim sheet from scratch inside of Blender, how to texture it, how to do everything. So sit back and grab a coffee and let's begin designing. First things first, make sure you download the GrabDoc add-on. It's free and you can get it on Gumroad here. Once you've installed it, what you want to do is you want to go to the end panel, go to GrabDoc, and then click on Setup Scene. What this will do is it will add in just a basic camera, which is perfectly positioned onto a square, basically. We can go ahead and hide this for right now because we don't actually need this at this point in time. So to begin designing our trim sheet, what I first do is I add in a plane. And then after I add in the plane, I simply just, you can extrude it down or you can add a solidify modifier here. So I can basically just increase the thickness. It doesn't have to be, super thick, but I usually put it somewhere around here. And then you can go ahead and apply that solidify modifier. Cool. So this is where we're going to be making our trim sheet details. Now there are two different types of trim sheets. You have tileable trim sheets and non-tileable trim sheets. And let me show you the difference here. So a tileable trim sheet allows you to repeat details over and over and over without seeing any seams. So let me show you. If I were to come in here and make like a little crevice like this, okay? We'll apply the boolean and then perhaps we'll just go in here and make like a little chamfer. And what I'll also do, what I'll also do is delete the faces here on the side like that. Now you can imagine if I array this, notice how it continues over and over and over without any clear seam. It continues nicely. Now an example of a non-tileable trim sheet would be one where once it starts the array modifier, it wouldn't clearly continue. It would be like a weird separation going on. So let me show you what I mean. So this is an example of something that could be non-tileable. So I could go in here and maybe add in like a random little, I'm going to have to fill in these faces here. I could perhaps go in and add like a little cut right here. And then I could add like another little cut right here. Just something completely random, right? And I'll just go ahead and apply those two booleans there. And we can delete these faces out. Okay. Now if I were to turn on the array modifier, and let me drop on a bevel as well, notice how there's a clear seam. These don't really connect up very nicely. This would be an example of a non-tileable trim sheet, unless for some weird reason you wanted it to repeat like this, then more power to you. But I think you get the idea. For the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to be creating a tileable trim sheet, one that can be repeated on like a wall, for example, over and over and over again. Okay, so I'm just going to start from scratch. We're going to add in a plane. I'll just extrude it down and then select everything and Shift N to recalculate the normals, make sure that's all oriented correctly. Cool. So first thing I want to do is make, you have to kind of figure out what type of design do you want. Maybe this is for the hull of a ship, maybe this is for a floor, maybe this is for a wall. Depending on what you're designing this trim sheet for will determine what type of details you want to add in. If this trim sheet is for a floor, you're probably going to want to add in like floor panels and things. If it's for a wall, you might want to add in like panels and pipes and vents and things like that. So I'm going to make this one for the purposes of a wall. So you can kind of imagine, you can even pull up different references and see what exactly might you see on a wall. Here's a few references right here. If you just kind of pull some, you can kind of see, you know, you have some panels on the wall, right? You have, let's see right here, little like plates and tiles and things like that on the wall. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Little vents and things like that. You can use tons of references and kind of see what type of trim details you might want to add in on your trim sheet. So feel free to use, you know, references like right here. This wall has some pipes and things like that. So these are all details that we might want to add in to our trim sheet. So let's just kind of, you know, do this from scratch. I'm not going to really use too many references here because I have an idea of what I want. So maybe what I'll do is add in like a little valley or something, just for like a rim detail perhaps. So I'm going to go in here and I'll just use box cutter to cut through. Now you don't want to cut all the way through because if you cut all the way through, it will not bake properly. So I'd recommend only cutting, you know, just a little bit down like this. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and also apply a bevel modifier, which will give us a nice little separation at the edge. And I'm going to apply the Boolean. And then what we can do is we can bevel these two edges right here with Control B, like that. And now we have a cool looking little rim detail we can use. Let's make a second one. Let's make a variation of that one. So perhaps this one could be a little bit deeper. Now, because of the bevel we're going to add, we might want to add a little bit of buffer here. So I'm just going to go in and then cut through. Doesn't have to be in the exact spot like the last one. And then just to, you know, select these edges right here, we'll have to apply our Boolean modifier. And maybe on this one, what I can do is actually round this out. So now we have like two different types of panels here. We have like a chamfered panel and a rounded panel right here. Now, before we continue, I do see a lot of trim sheet designs that are way too cluttered with no real design element. The eye is not able to rest or focus anywhere. It's just too cluttered and too much going on. You want to make sure you consider proper design techniques when developing these trim sheets, okay? If you don't know kind of how to consider and balance details, definitely pick up our Blender Bros design course where we discuss all of that. How to balance details, how to make the model look more aesthetically pleasing, how to not over clutter the image and things like this. But keep that in mind. It's very easy to go overboard and add too many details to the point where the viewer is just can't focus anywhere. So keep that in mind. So I'm just going to keep this nice and balanced. So maybe what I could do here is add in like a little, we could do like a little latch right here. I'm going to press the T key to solidify it. Press enter to lock it in. And you know what? Maybe what I'll do is bevel these edges here on the cutter just to kind of make it nice and rounded. You don't have to use two little segments. Use as many segments as you want to make it look more round. So we'll do that. And what I think I'm going to do is apply this Boolean right here, and then chamfer this edge at the end, kind of like that. And now we have like a little notch right here we could use for detail. Okay, so we have that, and what I want to do is mirror this detail to the other side. So since this piece is symmetrical right now, we can just press Alt-X and then drop a mirror modifier. And then just right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and apply that mirror because we might add some asymmetrical objects later and the mirror might mess that up. So looking pretty good so far. What I want to do is make like a little panel right here. So I'm going to cut to about here and I'm going to slice. Now I do want to mention, I strategically placed that cut. That wasn't random, although it may have looked like it was random. So what I have here is about 1/3 of the space, and then between here and the bottom of this panel is about an extra 2/3. So this is in the upper, these little hatches are in the upper third. And this actually looks a lot more balanced when you have things biased towards one end compared to it being centered. We as humans like to naturally place things in the middle. You see this in a lot of kids' drawings. You see this in a lot of more amateur designs. It's something that I struggled with for a long time. But let me show you this. If I were to center this, it still looks okay, but it doesn't look as balanced and pleasing as if I bias this a bit towards the top. So this is a very important design technique as well, where you keep things kind of cluttered in, like an upper third area or something. Now, this is a little bit too empty. An empty space is okay, but this much empty space is, I think we could add a bit more to it just to make it a little more exciting. So maybe on this one, I could add in like a little notch right here, maybe. Like that. We'll press the B key to bevel it. And I'm just going to go ahead and Alt-X to mirror to that side. The question is, do I like that? I don't think so. You know what? Maybe we can just leave it like this. This might actually be okay. Because you can kind of imagine as this repeats, this will end where this one begins, and it'll actually form like a full little notch of some sort. So that's pretty cool. And I also just noticed we have like a weird shading issue right here. I don't know if you can see it with YouTube's compression, but right here, to fix that, basically what you want to do is instead of using hardened normals here, I would recommend using a weighted normal modifier, and that should take care of that. Cool. Alright, so let's add in another detail down here somewhere. Before we do that, let me apply this boolean right here and see how it would look if we added in a small little chamfer on that portion. Not too bad. I don't like it that much though, so I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, so what other type of detail could we add here? Maybe we could add in like a larger panel that kind of extends down to this area. Okay, we'll press the B key to bevel, and then the X key to run a slice. And let me just move this over a little bit because these pieces here at the end are also beveled, and it's kind of rounding in right there. So we'll just kind of pull that back, and then that should be good enough. Cool, so now we're actually getting into the areas where this is going to be asymmetrical, because what I want to do is duplicate this cutter and move it to about here, and then run a slice. So now we kind of have like an asymmetrical detail like that. Looks pretty cool. Alright, so what could we do to make this panel a bit more exciting? Maybe I could go in here and make like a little difference boolean. Press enter, and then I also want to run that difference boolean on this piece as well to kind of get like a little notch like that. And we could also array it. So just drop an array modifier and do something like that. Cool. And let's do the same thing on the other end. I'm just going to duplicate these cutters and remove the array modifier for that duplicate, and then simply run a difference boolean here as well. So I guess we have to do these one at a time. So difference here and difference here. And we're going to have a little bit of a shading issue right here. So let me take a look. We're going to need to scale this a bit. Or what we could do is we could move this out a little bit and then move this out a little bit, so these edges aren't, intersecting with the other ones. So that should fix that. And then we can do the same thing right here. Notice how these the edges on this cutter are kind of intersecting right here. So all we need to do, we'll just take this face and move it out a bit, and take this face and move this one out a bit as well. Pretty cool. Now I have another idea here. What we could do is maybe we could go to this piece and then ever scroll to these little pieces right here. And I'm going to go to Shift Bool and shift this to a slice operation. So now we have like a little hatch. We have like a little panel right here and an empty panel right here. You don't have to have any true functionality here. It has to look like it does something. And that's kind of the goal of these trim sheets. I'm going to go over here to this one as well, and we'll just go to shift bool. That way we have that. And this looks a little bit more enticing. You know, it makes the user want to come in here and try to like flip these little hatches or something. Maybe something opens here. Okay, so this is a little bit empty. Maybe what we could do is try adding in like a little circular cut right here, like a bolt or something. Shift T to run a taper. And then I'll just go ahead and duplicate this down. And I could duplicate these over and run a difference boolean on that side as well. Now we kind of have like a little panel of some sort. These are a little bit too attention pulling though, so I'm not sure I want to keep them. I could try scaling these down on their individual origins and just see if that helps at all. Let's try doing that on this one as well. So scale these down, or what we could do is just take these and then duplicate them over. And that's not too bad. I think that's a little bit better. I kind of want to balance the center of attention right here by putting another bolt on this end. So what I'm going to do is take these and then duplicate them over. Run a difference, but I want to delete out this one on the top. Like that. So now it's actually a bit more balanced doing it this way. Let me just move this over just a bit. Okay, cool. I don't want to put one right here because where this one ends, this one begins, and we'll have two little dots way too close to each other. Unless you want that effect, then you could of course do that, but I think I'm going to leave it alone. This looks good. I may end up changing my mind later on this one. I'm not 100% sure how I like that balance detail, but anyways, let's continue on. Let's add something else down here. Maybe we could add in a pipe. So what I'm going to do is go to our box cutter and make like a little slot to put a pipe in. Cut it down to about here. And then if I just add in a cylinder, Shift A, mesh, and then cylinder, make this like 64 vertices. I could rotate this on the Y, sharpen it, and then just kind of put it right here. Like this, and then pull it down like that. And just to make this pipe a bit more exciting, maybe we could put like a little random detail right here, right? Give it a small bevel, and then do like another one right here to keep it asymmetrical, like that. Maybe I could even take these edges here on the top and scale it on the X, just to kind of open it a bit. Okay, it's not too bad. And then maybe I could just go in here and run an inset boolean by pressing the I key and then the T key to change the size here. Not gonna lie, I don't like that. I'm gonna undo this and I'm gonna undo that effect right there. And I think I might leave it just at this because I can always add in additional detail later inside of Substance Painter when we texture this. So I'm going to leave it as is, I think. If you wanted to, what you could do is apply this boolean and then just kind of give it a little bit of additional separation right here. Kind of like round out that, and it kind of like shows a bit more. Maybe a little bit more rounded like that. Pretty cool. We could even try a chamfer, see if a chamfer looks any better. Yeah, it's not too bad. I like it. Next, what I want to do is I want to come in here and make like a little latch of some sort. So I'll just cut through. I'm going to press the T key to solidify it and then press enter. And then I'll apply this boolean right here and give this a nice little bevel like that. And actually I can't mirror this whole thing because then it will disrupt the asymmetry over here. So what I need to do before I actually apply that boolean is I need to mirror the cutter itself. And then once I've done that, then I can apply the boolean like that. Cool, so we'll just do that and then bevel. That looks pretty good. And let's add another panel down here. So I'm going to come in with this cut, and we're going to put a panel like this. We'll just run a slice like that. And then I'm going to run an additional slice down here. Let's do it through the middle. We'll actually keep this one centered. I think it might fit pretty well. So I'm not too sure exactly how I want to do this one. It's a bit tricky. I want to make sure this is placed in a good location. I don't know. Okay, we have another issue. It's actually cutting through this entire area, which I do not want. So what I could actually do, let me undo this. I'm going to come in here and put that slice in this area, okay? And then maybe this one down here is the one I'll end up slicing again, so we could do something kind of like this. Now, just to make sure this is perfectly centered, I'm going to run a mirror modifier on this piece, and then a mirror modifier on this piece, and then we can just go ahead, smart apply this one, and then smart apply this one as well. Cool. I'm trying to think, is this too skinny? I think it'll be alright, it's not too bad. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chamfer those two edges right there to add in like a little detail. Maybe we could try it right here as well. I want to echo these, horizontal lines here on the top. That's going to really balance the design and make it look more visually appealing, but not everywhere will actually work. It's a very intuitive feeling, so I might leave those alone. And on this one, I could apply the slice maybe and try doing it here. That could actually work. That looks really good. Now this looks a lot more powerful and much more like a panel because if I undo this, this looks kind of weak without this chamfer right here. See what I mean? This makes it look a lot more visually strong. Very powerful element right there. Now here I don't really know what I want to put, to be honest, so we'll have to think of something. Maybe this element right here could be like wall panels or something. So what I'm going to do is maybe we'll cut through like this. Okay. And then what we can also do is cut through like this. And then here we could do like an asymmetrical slice as well. And now these would be like wall panels or something. Pretty cool. I'm going to select all of these and then just smart apply to get all those booleans applied quickly. And then just to make this look a bit more robust, we could put some sort of little circular details right here. So I could do like a little cut down through here. We'll recall this cutter and then duplicate it down like this. Duplicate this one over like this. And mirror it so we have the same element on the other side, right? And then we could do one right here as well. Okay. Actually, I want these to be the same size, so I'll just go ahead and steal these cutters right here. And I can delete these and instead use this one as a difference boolean. And mirror and just reposition this a bit. Nothing crazy. Let's also put a one of those here, one of those here, like that. And then we'll put another one over here. We also have to mirror this piece because there's no bevel on this one. So we'll just do that real quick. Now we have like a little panel here on the bottom we could use as part of our trim sheet. Maybe I could even take this detail and duplicate it down. And I think this will actually work. I could do one more on this one. I could duplicate this one and move this one down as well. And does that look good? Maybe not. We'll just do it. We'll leave it right there. Alright, so this is our trim sheet, guys. It's a very simple trim sheet. I didn't want to go overboard and make this video like 5 hours long, but we have a pretty clean trim sheet right here. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else I could add or potentially remove to keep this nice and balanced? I want to take this cutter real quick and make the bevel just a little bit less harsh. So I'm going to make the bevel a bit smaller there. I can copy that amount and then paste it to this one as well. Just because if you take a look at the entire thing, none of these elements are really rounded, so I want to keep it as rectangular as possible to echo all of these details. But yeah, this looks good. So now what we need to do is bake out all of our maps so that way we can texture this in Substance Painter. So this GrabDoc add-on that we enabled earlier, turn it back on, okay? And what we're going to do is press 0 on the numpad to zoom in. I want to reposition this background plane because right now it kind of interrupts the elements. So we can't actually select this plane. To do that, we have to go here, turn on selection, and then turn this on. It says to not touch the contents, but we're going to do it anyways because we need to. And we're going to move this down through here, all the way to the bottom like that. And now we can actually see all of the different elements we modeled in. I don't know why it's like that, but I just do what works. So now what we can do is go to the GrabDoc add-on, and we can preview our normals by clicking this. So this is our normal preview. We can also preview things like the curvature, the ambient occlusion, things like that. Now all you have to do is choose the export path. So let me make a new folder real quick. Now I've actually had issues selecting using this function. When I click accept, it doesn't actually do anything. So what I tend to do is I actually go to the folder I made in my file explorer and then copy the value manually. So copy the address as text, and then what I can actually do is just paste it in here, and it ends up working that way. And we'll just name this trim. The resolution is up to you. You can do 2K or you could do 4K. I'll do 4K. And 16-bit PNG is fine. And now all you have to do is click on the export button. And for some reason it adds to the folder before the one I copied. I don't know why, but we'll just go in here and you're going to see we have our normal map, no issues. We have our height, if you want to use height. I don't think we'll be using it. And we also have our curvature, which we're going to bake manually in Substance because this one isn't very good. And then we have our ambient occlusion map right here. Now all we need to do is add in a plane and export this plane. So I'm going to go to File, Export FBX, and I'll just call this trim sheet, just a plane, and then tick on selected objects and then click on the Export FBX button. Now I do want to mention that this is technically tileable, at the same time not tileable, because we have a bevel right here. So what will happen is because of this bevel at the end, when we duplicate this, let me just smart apply to show you. When we duplicate this and move it over, this bevel is going to actually cause like a clear separation. Let me try to put it right there. So as this repeats, there's going to be like a little seam right here from the bevel. And that's okay to me. I actually like that effect. If you don't like that effect, what you can do instead is you can select everything, tab into face mode here. And if we select one of these faces here and one of these faces here and press Shift G, coplanar, all you have to do is delete out the faces here on the side. And now you're not going to actually have that bevel at the end. So this should be able to continue nicely. So I'll just drop an array and you're going to see it continues nicely without a seam. To me, I kind of like that seam, that bevel, because it kind of creates a nice little separation, provides more visual interest. But in case you don't want that, that is how you can remove the bevel at the end. But as you can see, this tiles very, very nicely. We do have the visible seam here, but I think it provides a nice separation. Like I said, you would just delete the faces on the side if you did not like that effect. But as you can see, this continues over and over and over very nicely, and this could be a super cool detail for a wall. Alright, so here in Substance Painter, we need to go to File, New. I'm going to make the document resolution 4K. We're going to load in that FBX file, and then we need to load in all of the maps right here. So just drag all these in, and I'm going to change the normal map format to OpenGL because I'm going to be putting this in Blender. If you're using a game engine like Unity or Unreal, you can set it to DirectX. Doesn't really matter though. We're going to go in here and you're just going to have the plane loaded in. Now to load in those maps, what we have to do is go to the texture set settings right here, load in the normal map. We have our ID map, which may or may not be a good one. I'm not sure. Depends how it baked. Ambient occlusion. Don't confuse that for the height map. They look similar. And then we also have the curvature, which I want to bake manually. So to do that, I'll just go here to Bake Mesh Maps. And I want to bake the curvature only. We already have the other maps loaded in. And I'm going to set this to 4K and then bake selected textures here. And now if we just move this around, you're going to see we have everything loaded in. So we have our normal. If we remove the normal, we don't see that, three-dimensional detail. If you don't have the AO, you don't have those darker areas, etc. So looks good. Now what we need to do is texture this thing. So it kind of depends on what type of textures you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and add in a plastic and use this plastic use shiny right here. And what I want to do is change the color of this to a white color. So I'm going to click on the folder, go to base plastic, and we can change the color here to a whiter color, right? Just like that. Maybe instead of using this one, I could use like this one instead. That might look cooler. And I'll just open up the folder here and go to the base color and just make it like white like this. And in order to add a nice contrast, what I think I might do is right click to add a mask with color selection. And then we can pick like different areas of our ID map here. So we could do something like, pick all these different, let's pick right here maybe, and then pick up here. And you're going to see this ID map did not really give us a nice combination of colors, unfortunately. That's okay. We can just put something right there and paint the rest out manually. Put something up here as well. And I want to paint out the effect that got added down here. So to do that, we can right click to add in a paint. Now remember that white reveals and black conceals. So the white areas are revealing that plastic. So if we paint the white areas with black, it will conceal it. So I'm going to go here and change this. And you can just paint this out. So we'll just go in and basically just hold shift. Just kind of get in there as close as you can. Sometimes it's kind of difficult and you might be a little bit inaccurate, but it's okay. We can just kind of come in here and paint that back over. Make this brush a lot smaller. Click here and then hold shift. Do that. Okay. And then what we can do is just paint that back in. And now we have like a nice little contrast between these elements and these elements up here. So maybe these panels could be like a steel material. So what I'm going to do is look for some sort of steel material. We could use something like this and drag that in. And let's drag this below that plastic layer. And now we have this type of effect. A little bit too dark, so maybe I'll just go here to this underpaint right here and make this a little bit lighter. Now I also want these latches right here to have a steel material as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another one of these, and I'm going to right click to add in a black mask. Now make sure this is at the top of the stack because we want to make sure we can paint that in above the plastic. And then we're going to add in a paint set to white. Now I'm going to turn on symmetry so that way I only have to paint one half and it will replicate over here. So I'm just going to go in and this is just going to get painted. Going to have to be very, very careful here. Okay. Then we're going to go over here and do the same thing. So make this pretty small. Like this. We can just kind of paint in the rest like this. And let's see, did this look good or does it look off balance? I'm not sure. It's not terrible, but I'm going to go ahead and make this color a little bit lighter. So if we go in here to this folder and then go to the coding folder for this underpaint, we can make this a little bit lighter. And I think that will actually work a little bit nicer. Cool, so maybe right there, cool. Great, so this is looking amazing. Now I think we should add in some highlighting colors, something that's like a super different contrast compared to the general aesthetic of this piece. So it'll bring in a lot of detail to it. So what I want to do is add in a fill layer to the top of the stack here. And we're just going to choose a random color. We could do like a reddish color, maybe like a blue. I'm going to do like a blue or something. Okay, so we'll go like right here, add in a black mask, and then what we can do, let me turn off the symmetry, we can add in a paint. And to reveal that blue, we paint in a white value. So we can do this, and now we're going to have some blue. So I don't want to use a circle for this one. I want to use like a rectangular shape. So if we go up here to the alphas, we can type in rectangle and just find a rectangle. And what I want to do is basically just come in here and make like a little accent here on the bottom. Like that. Sometimes it doesn't catch, so you got to be careful. And maybe we could do the same thing to this little, the chamfers of this crevice right here. I'm going to turn on the symmetry just so I don't have to zoom out as far to reach the other end. We can hold shift and then paint to there. And then we could go here and hold shift and paint to there. And now we kind of have this effect going on. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we'll just go in and make sure all this is selected. It's a little bit hard to get, isn't it? So we got to be careful. Cool, that looks all right. So notice how these highlighting effects kind of make the trim sheet come to life a bit more. Perhaps this blue is a bit too dull, so you could always go in and kind of like play with the color. You could make it a more like a redder tint if you wanted to. I like the cyan though. I'm going to go for something in this area. You can even add in some of those highlights over on these floor panels if you wanted to. So I could kind of like go in here. Just remember the floor panels will end up getting these random blue streaks. So if you want to tile it, maybe not a good idea. I could maybe put a few random streaks on the pipe, so I could rotate this 90 degrees and then just kind of stamp one in right there. And then stamp one in right here. Like that. Now what I also want to do is paint these little hatches right here a white color. So let me go back to the plastic and we'll just kind of paint it out like that. Try to get as close as you can to make sure you capture everything. Then we'll go here and then there. And that looks a little bit nicer in my opinion. Now I want to add in some normal stamps. So I'm going to add in a fill layer here. And I want to turn everything off except for the height and the color information. So check this out. You can choose whatever base color you want. If I right click to add in a black mask and a paint and set this to white, we can start painting in. Let me choose a different alpha here. We'll just choose something like this just to show you. If we go back to this main color and increase the height to anything above or below 0, it'll actually allow you to paint in height information. Notice how that looks like it's elevated. Likewise, if we go to the negative values, it will look like an indent, which is super cool. Now we have to figure out exactly how we want to do that. Well, first of all, I want to find some sort of normal detail that I think would look pretty cool inside of this trim. So I'm going to go here. Let's rotate this 90 degrees and maybe like do something like this. I'm going to add in a symmetry so that way it goes to both sides. And then we could maybe make like a little arrow thing like that. And it's going to look like it's actually carved into the surface, which is really cool. We could maybe choose a different alpha now. And we'll have like there's some arrows and different things like that. Just have to kind of go in here and figure out exactly what you want to use. Maybe I'll just reuse what I already have. Set this to 180 for the rotation. Turn on the symmetry, and then if you go right here, you could get something like that. Pretty cool. And like I said, you can always change the color here, so you can make it like a darker color, which actually might look a bit better, a lighter color. Kind of depends on the style you're going for. This lighter color actually looks pretty decent, perhaps a bit too heavy, so we'll try to kind of match that in there. So it looks good. here on these little panels, we can maybe add in some sort of detail. So let's go back to our alphas and kind of see what we have available. We could use like a circle or something. So if you type in shape, you can actually find the original brush, which is this one right here. You can make it a fully hard brush, and then if we just go in here, maybe make like some little stamps like that, just to bring in a bit more visual interest to it. And then here and here. Okay, pretty cool, not too bad. It's not too heavy, I don't think. Now for this one, I want to find some little details we could kind of put like right here. So we're gonna have to find something that matches. Maybe like a line like this would be pretty good. So you could just pop in a line like that. Could pop in a line over here. Could even pop in a line on those blue values, but I think that'll pull a bit too much attention, so we'll just drop one right there. And I don't want to put anything down here because I kind of like how this bottom portion looks pretty clean. Now these panels I think should be a bit dirtier, so what I want to do is go to some sort of dirty brush, and you can kind of go through here and type in dirt if you wanted to. And there's like this dirt smudges you could use, and I would recommend duplicating this layer here. And what we'll do is just remove the mask and then just add in a new one. Add in a black mask with a paint so it doesn't like overlay the other ones again. And we could just kind of come in here and just, paint in some smudges and just play with the rotation and things like this. We're going to definitely drop the opacity though. So if we go to this, you can just really like make it super, super faint like that. And we could even make this color a little bit more like that. See, it's just very, very subtle effect on those panels. I don't even know if I want that for sure. It kind of doesn't really add anything to the scene, so maybe not. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas here. You don't have to copy what I'm doing necessarily. I'm just kind of giving you some potential ideas. We could look for a different alpha that could act as like a latch or something. So something like this would be pretty cool, and maybe we'll set the rotation to 0 here, or 90. Nope, 270, there we go. And we could put like a little indentation right there. Let's turn on symmetry before we do it. Then we have like a little indentation like that. Cool. And you could keep adding on and on and on, just don't overdo it. I think we've done enough for this specific trim sheet. Like I said, it's meant to be simple, and I don't want to drone this video on for another hour adding in random details. So I think we're done. We're going to go up here to File, Export Textures, and what we want to do, under Output Templates, if you don't have this set up already, basically you want to go to PBR Metallic Roughness, duplicate this channel. You can remove the emissive channel, we don't need that. Set this to gray, set a new gray channel, and then copy and paste this and just rename this to AO, because we need to add in an AO channel. And to add in the AO channel, we can drag in the input map here, and there you go, you're going to have your own ambient occlusion channel. But I've already done that on my own, so what I'm going to do is select that output template here. In my case, it's called PBR Metallic Roughness Copy. I'm just going to choose where I want to export this. Okay, then we're going to go to a 4K texture size, and PNG 16 bits is fine. We'll click on export. And I'm just going to show you real quick how we can bring this back into Blender and use this in our scenes. Okay, cool. So let me actually make a new scene here. All right, so we need to add in just a random cube or something. We'll use this as like a wall for an example. Scale it down, scale it up, and we'll run like a little panel here in the front. Okay. And then just drop a small little bevel on it just to have some nice separation on the edges there. So bevel here and bevel here. So let's add a new material and then drag out the shader editor. And what we're going to do, as long as you have a node wrangler turned on, you can select this principled BSDF shader and press Ctrl-Shift-T. Doing that will open this menu where we can load in all of our maps. So you're going to have 6 different maps here. So I'm going to load all of them in. Okay. And it doesn't actually connect up the ambient occlusion automatically, so I'll show you how to do that. Give it a second to load. So I'm going to duplicate one of these image textures here. And what we want to do is combine the base color with the AO. So first of all, we have to load in that ambient occlusion. And then if we press Shift A to add in a mix RGB, give that a second, we can connect this up here and then connect this down here. And this goes in here and set this to multiply. Okay, now is where we can actually go into our material preview and start unwrapping this thing. So give the material preview a second to load because we once again have a 4K texture here. All right, so I'm gonna go to the UV editor, and what I wanna do is basically just unwrap this. So we'll press U to unwrap. This one's kind of hard to see the detail, so I'm gonna change the image to the base color instead. Now check this out. We can just kind of move this up. If we want to get that pipe detail, we simply move that up there. And we could do SY -1 to flip it. See what I mean? Pretty cool. We could go up here to this one and unwrap this piece. Let's also make sure we assign that material. And we could slide that up here and get a detail like that. And then we could go here and unwrap this one as well. And this could be like a, you know, a panel or something. Kind of depends what you're going for. You can even scale it down if you want to get a bit more intricate with it. You could put some panels down here, whatever you want. And check this out, guys. Maybe what we could do is we could drop in a loop cut, like a really small looped area. And I could unwrap this smaller portion here and overlay this with one of our repeating patterns we have going on here in the top, and then just keep adding in detail that way. So you can always add in more geometry to kind of make these planes a bit smaller and more suitable for the different areas of our trim sheet. You get the idea. But just like that, guys, you can use this trim sheet in your scenes and you don't have to model anything. You can just unwrap it, and just like that you have a nice three-dimensional looking shape. Now that I look at it, I'm not too sure I like the blue I put up here, but you know, hindsight is 20/20, but it still looks pretty good, and this is definitely something we could use a lot in our scenes. Maybe I'll even drop in another loop cut here, unwrap it, and this would allow me to position this here over the pipe. So we'll go in, position that over the pipe, and look at that. Looks pretty cool. So the inspiration for this tutorial came from a massive project that we're currently working on with ST3, who is a developer for HardOps. Now, if you're using HardOps, you're using ST3's tools every single day. What we're making is we're making a massive new course here. It's nowhere close to being complete, so don't get too excited. But what we're making is a full environment course in Blender and in Unity. We're going to be modeling a complete environment in Blender. We're going to be modeling our own trim sheets for this environment in Blender as well. We'll show you how to texture them. And most importantly, we're going to take this whole environment in trim sheets, unwrap the entire environment, prepare it for export, bring it into Unity, and basically get ourselves a real-time interactive sci-fi scene that we can walk around in. We can use all the models and textures that we made in real time, so it's not just a render. And I'm super excited to get this thing out to you guys. It's still in the early stages. If you'd like to keep track of how we're working or the progress on this project, click the link in the description. There will be a form. If you fill it out, we'll send you different updates. We'll keep you alerted as to, you know, potential release dates and things like that. So if you're interested, just fill out the form below and we'll keep you in the loop. I'm really excited to announce this project. It's been, you know, kind of on the down low for a few weeks now, but we're finally getting started on it, and this trim sheet tutorial should be a big help. So I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. And until the next video, I'll see you then.